The government is promoting bad behavior because we certainly don't want to put stimulus forth and give people a whopping $8 or $10 in their check and think that they ought to save it. And in terms of modifications, I'll tell you what, I have an idea. You know, the new administration's big on computers and technology. How about this, President and new administration? Why don't you put up a website to have people vote on the internet as a referendum to see if we really want to subsidize the losers' mortgages, or would we like to at least buy cars and buy houses in foreclosure and give them to people that might have a chance to actually prosper down the road and reward people that could carry the water instead of drink the water.
Hey, Rick,
that's a novel idea.
Hey, Rick, did you?
What? Who thought of that?
Yeah, they're like putty in your hands. Did you hear?
No, they're not, Joe. They're not like putty in our hands. This is America. How many of you people want to pay for your neighbor's mortgage that has an extra bathroom and can't pay their bills? Raise their hand.
How about we all?
President Obama, are you listening? You know, hey, giving people 4.5% interest rates when they can't afford their house seems a little senseless. Don't charge them any interest at all. If you can't afford it, you can't afford it.
No. Leisman was just here, and once again, he thinks that you are so off base on
Of course
that,
he does. And all his off-base comments the last month and a half sure put us in a very nice spot. Don't you feel optimistic about where we are right now?
Rick, what he said was the government is only setting prices on things that normally would regulate themselves to more normal.
Right, and what's normal? What's normal? There's the harbinger.
Rick, I'll tell you what's normal, okay?
What's normal?
You know, Rick, first of all...
You've never traded, Steve. You know what normal is? Normal is what the market is.
Rick, hold on. Rick, first of all, you need to discount what Joe Stir It Up
okay, I can do that. Let's do a rewind. Let's do one of our famous rewinds. All right.
Okay, let's start again.
We're starting over.
All I was pointing out was I went back and I looked at the 10-year versus the 30-year mortgage over the last 15 or 16 years.
Yeah.
The average spread is 168 basis points, okay? What is it right now, Rick?
No, let's rephrase it.
Answer the question.
First of all, I don't like your premise. Take out the last 6 years and what do you have?
I didn't do that, Rick, but I can do that for you. In any event, I got the chart. If you guys have it in the back there, you could roll it up. There we go. There's the mortgage spread.
See, Santelli?
If I take out the last 6 years, Rick, it's still bizarre, okay? It's still ridiculous. So,
you're right, Steve.
Joe, you're not helping anybody. You're not helping Rick, and you're not helping me. Okay. So, Rick, if I go back, it's 168 base points. If I were to do that right now and put that 168 on the 10-year, what do I got? I got a 10-year at 250. I'm going to add 150. I got about 4.25, right? Okay? So all the government would be doing by putting out a 4.5% or a bid on the 4%, which would create a 4.5% retail mortgage, would be doing what the market has typically done for itself. And just to pop your Ayn Randy and this is a free market economy bubble, let me just point out to you that the government has provided tax incentives for home ownership for almost ever. So it's not exactly the free market you'd love it to be in any event.
No, but okay. I love your point that you're looking at market history to, in the future, usurp the market and make it a pegged rate by the government. Gee, that makes a whole lot of sense to me.
No, Rick, what I'm saying is that
you're saying, Steve, is that we ought to move to China if we want capitalism.
No. My point is that you keep arguing for the market to handle this thing, but I'm telling you, Rick, there is no market.
Oh, you know what? If there's no market that people, there's no market and people in Washington like because they've got us into a mess and they want to unwind it as fast as possible.
Rick, are you saying to me that what's going on right now with the yields
that these leaders
that are out there are normal?
I didn't elect anybody to take the U.S. Treasury piggy bank, that we elect people to protect for us and use it for their own personal ideas to how to fix something they don't understand.
They're going to borrow at 260 and they're going to lend at 4.5.
Let David Walker.
Why do they need to do that, Steve?
You don't. The federal government can't even manage itself.
They can't even deliver the mail.
But we clearly don't have efficient markets right now.
Right, so you got to let the markets work it out, because I'd rather have an aggregate opinion of the marketplace come out with what it tries to transparently price discover than somebody thinking they're smarter than all of that and peg it.
Rick, when the market fails to function over periods
Why
of
it's failing to
hundreds of years.
function the way you think it ought to. Maybe it's right and you're wrong.
Okay, so that means that a perfectly credit-worthy customer.
Wait, hold on, Rick. The market ought to penalize them.
No, Rick, because I got off the phone yesterday with a banker at one of the biggest banks
And
in this country.
he has nothing in the game. No flush in the game.
And
He's objective.
No, Rick, hold on. He told me that he told his lenders, he told his credit officers, do not offer loans. I don't care if they're creditworthy or if they're not. Don't offer
and I'll
loans.
show you three
so
other
you're
banks
telling
that are
me,
making loans.
No, I'm telling you, Rick, that when a
anecdotal evidence, I have more faith in you than
Rick,
that,
when
Steve.
no, this is from a top banker with a big balance sheet.
Top banker, one of the big guys.
Who are you talking to, Rick?
One of the theys.
Who are you talking to, Rick?
I'm talking to the boards.
Rick,
I'm talking to the
Rick,
boards.
I'm telling you, when that happens and a creditworthy customer cannot go out and get a loan to buy a house that he can afford, that the markets are not functioning.
Take my tax dollars and buy it down with points on my nickel. Okay.
All right, Rick. That's fine. That's fine. The markets are not functioning. I don't know what you're looking for.
Okay.
Maybe it's a dumb idea.
You don't like
Maybe
the way
it's
the
a dumb
market
idea.
works, so you want to
Maybe
change
it's a
the
dumb
rules
idea,
in the
Rick.
middle of the game.
Maybe it's a dumb idea.
You're not going to get elected anytime soon.
Things like this.
But you can't argue that it's functioning in the right way, Rick.
These guys are passionate, right?
You can't argue it's functioning right. If you got another solution,
you heard the bell.
Let me know.
You heard.
People could say, yeah, you know, it all started when Greece, you know, couldn't spend any more money, or they were the canary in the coal mine that Europe couldn't stimulate more. Isn't the real conversation how Greece ended up broke via spending? That's the issue. The issue is you have to have prudent fiscal and monetary policy going hand in hand for long periods of time.
But Steve, we're outdoing Europe. They're uncomfortable. Even Europe is uncomfortable with.
Look,
hold off. We don't
buy the hype, Joe. It's the hype,
okay? All right,
because let me just tell you, Germany and France are both increasing their deficits this year, okay? The big question is what happens next year. My understanding is that the planned stimulus from Germany and France are not going away this year. Unclear about what happens with the UK, with the new prime minister, but a lot of this is hype and about how austere the Europeans are really going to be. I think they're given a lot more credit for austerity than it's probably worth.
Yeah,
and the other thing is clear is that the problem in Greece had to do with a flaw in the European monetary union, and it was not about necessarily the fact that they obviously have no tax base. The problems in Greece are much different from those in the U.S.
The real issue is we're on the wrong path. Blame the Tea Party. Geez, no wonder Kerry did so well in an election. If it wasn't for the Tea Party, they would have passed the debt ceiling thumbs up. We'd have been rated triple B.
Did you read the release, Rick?
I read every word of it.
What did they say about intransigence, about raising revenues?
They don't care if you get it from revenues or expenses.
But that was part of what they were. That was part of what S&P talked about.
I'm not going to get into minutia. Listen,
minutia?
I don't need S&P.
That's top line stuff, Rick. Revenue and spending is top line.
Be a free thinker, Steve. Be a free thinker.
I'm thinking freely. Go ahead.
Is this country as good credit-wise as it was 5 years ago?
Yes, I do actually. I do.
Okay, well,
I think it has the means to pay its debt just as surely as it did 5 years ago. But if you take revenue off the table, you take off one aspect of the.
Set on politics.
What happened at 3-1?
Listen, if my wife started spending 30% more this year than last year, and her answer was, I'm supposed to get 2 more jobs, that's the same analogy. We have a spending problem. Taxing from an OMB standpoint, they say it brings in revenues. We all know that for the most part, the best tax years were years where they dropped the rate. Now, whether it creates jobs in the long run in this country, maybe it didn't. Because every time you get politicians a year's worth of better revenue, they make 3 years of bigger promises. I'm not going to debate you on S&P. I'll debate you on the following. We're on the wrong path, and our leaders are gone. They're on vacation to September 7th.
Yeah.
It is reprehensible.
That is.
Scott, rebound. Rick, it's impossible for you to have been more wrong. Every single bit of advice you gave would have lost people money, Rick. Lost people money, Rick. Every single bit of advice. There is no piece of advice that you've given that's worked, Rick.
They need a better strategy than the Cubs. Wait till next year isn't the way to go.
There is no piece of advice that you've given that's worked, Rick. Not a single one.
Oh, yeah, there is.
Paul Richards, I'll give
not a single one, Rick.
Can do her job or his job.
Not a single one. The higher interest rates never came. The inability of the U.S. to sell bonds never happened. The dollar never crashed, Rick. There isn't a single one that's worked for you.